Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just going to give it a minute to let you people filter in, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the Sage Intacct 2025 R3 webinar presented by Cross Country Consulting. My name is James, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Today's theme is from insight to impact, and we're excited to share the latest Sage Intacct release updates and how they can help you optimize your financial operations. Before we dive in, a few quick notes. You're all connected via your computer speaker system, and all attendees are in a muted mode by default. To earn CPE credits, you must attend at least 50 minutes and respond to at least 3 polling questions, which appear on screen at various points during the session. If you have any questions throughout the course of today's webinar, please use the Q&A feature to submit them, or our post-production support team will do our best to respond to your questions throughout the session. If you stay with us until the end, we'll also have dedicated time for additional Q&A. Here's a quick agenda for what we'll cover today. First, we'll do some team introductions, then briefly cover our cross-country PPS offerings. After that, we'll jump into the fun stuff and demo some of the exciting new features from R3. And finally, we'll perform a quick wrap-up along with answering any of the Q&A that came in during the session. Now into the introductions. Again, my name is James, and I'm a senior consultant in the Sage Intacct service line here at Cross Country Consulting. I bring about 6 years of experience in supporting Sage Intacct and about 4 years of experience in accounting, where I provided both tax and audit services to clients across various industries. Joining me today are 3 of my outstanding colleagues within our Sage Intacct service line. We have Ginger Steele, an experienced manager with over 18 years of experience in accounting and 10 plus years of experience supporting Sage Intacct. Becker Rust, an experienced manager with over 12 years of experience supporting cloud ERP solutions and over 7 years of hands-on Sage Intacct experience. And then Ashley Apodaca, another experienced manager with over 12 years of experience supporting SaaS financial systems and 8 plus years of hands-on experience with Sage Intacct. Together, we bring decades of combined experience in Sage Intacct implementations, post-production support, and client success. And we're all excited to walk through the R3 release and how it can benefit your organization. Our objectives for this webinar are to familiarize yourself with the key features introduced in the R3 release, show you how these updates can bring value to your organization, help you prepare your system and teams to take advantage of these new features and the impacts that may be associated with them, and lastly, share our 5 cross-country post-production support offerings. Now let's kick it off with our first polling question. How prepared is your team for the R3 release? We'll give you about a minute to answer. Okay, yeah, it looks like most of you haven't had a chance to review the release notes yet, but are at least aware of it. So glad you're joining us today to go through all these exciting updates. Now for a quick overview of our PPS offerings. At Cross Country, our post-production support services are designed to help you maximize the value of your Sage Intacct investment. We currently offer operational support or help with your day-to-day operations. This could be error troubleshooting or just general questions about product functionality. Optimization and enhancements, where we can help you optimize processes or implement new modules. Release management, such as this release webinar, but could also provide a more tailored approach with personalized insights on how new features can benefit your organization. We offer security and management, where we act as a system administrator and help manage user access, permissions, and even assist with audit requests. Reporting and integrations, where we can help build out custom reports or assist in monitoring, troubleshooting, and implementing new integrations. System health checks, where we can perform system diagnostics and provide recommendations on ways you can better leverage Sage Intacct to meet your organizational goals. Through these offerings, we've supported over 100 clients within our PPS efforts and are proud to be a certified trusted partner for over a decade. Out of these offerings, our five key PPS offerings are within the operational support, enhancement projects, system health checks, integrations, and Release management. These services are tailored to your needs and backed by our Center of Excellence. Now on to our next polling question. R3 was released over the weekend on 8/8, and with that, we would love to know if you've tested or enabled any new features from the R3 release yet. We'll give you about a minute to answer. All right, so yeah, it looks like not yet, but you guys are interested in implementing these new features. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so now it's time to jump into the fun stuff, and we'll walk you through some of the most impactful updates in the R3 release. We'll show you how these features work and how they can streamline your operations. All right, so I'll go ahead and start sharing Intacct. So here we have a demo. The first new feature I want to share with you is Sage Copilot, which is a new search help option that Intacct added this last release. This has been being rolled out in phases and it should be generally available now. This is helpful if you're trying to troubleshoot any error message or to look up something around the lines of product functionality. To access the new Sage Copilot search help, you'll want to just select the search help and support option on the top right-hand corner from any page in the system, and you'll see this search help option within the menu. Go ahead and click that, and it'll bring up this chat box. Let's say you're experiencing an issue with trying to pay a bill and you're receiving a closed period error. Go ahead and just type in the error message, provide some details around the error message that you're receiving, and hit send. It takes a moment to process, but we then provide you with some details around that error message and how you could potentially resolve it. I will say it's good to practice a little bit of professional skepticism when working with AI tools and just make sure that you're validating the information they're providing is correct. Well, we found that this is mostly accurate. It's always good to just double check. So here you can see it provided some troubleshooting steps on how we could resolve this issue by maybe opening the books and going through that process. It also provided any helpful help links down here at the bottom as well. Great. Moving on is I want to talk about the new enhanced email delivery service. So Sage Intacct rolled out their new enhanced email delivery service with this release where they leverage SendGrid. And what this does is offers better email security and more reliable email delivery when you set up your custom domain within your company module. So to set up your email sender domain, you want to navigate to the company module, setup tab, and then company. Within the security, you want to select edit and then navigate to the security tab. You'll scroll down to the email sender domain settings section and select add domain. From here, you'll enter your company domain and select authenticate domain. What this will do is generate DNS values that you could then provide to your email administrator. And what they'll do is add this to your DNS server. Once these DNS values have been added to your DNS server, you'll want to come back here and select validate domain. Once your domain status is updated to validated, this has been set up in your system and you're now utilizing the new enhanced email delivery service. A good way to tell if you're sending emails out of Sage and need to set this up would be to navigate to your company module, admin, and then email delivery history. Select show all emails. And if you have emails coming from your domain in the center column here, you'll know that you'd likely want to set this up in your company. The next new feature I want to talk about is new delegates for AP approvals, where you could set up alternate approvals for AP bills. To set this up, you would want to navigate to Accounts Payable, Setup, then Configuration, scroll down to the AP Approval section. And then you want to make sure once you're down in the bill approval section, you'll check the box for Enable Delegates and then Manage. From here, you'll see a list of your AP approvers, AP bill approvers, and you can go ahead and assign a user or user group to be their delegate. Once this is enabled, um, you can, you know, you now have alternate approvers set up for your AP approvers. However, it's not on by default. In order for that person to enable delegation for their approvals, they'll need to enable it in their preferences. To do that, they would want to select their user in the top right-hand corner, go to My Preferences, scroll down to the Approval Delegation section, and then they can check the box to enable delegate bill approvals. They can enter that their start and end date for the days that they're going to be out of office or that they're going to need some approval delegation in place. So now you guys can go ahead and take that well-deserved vacation and not have to worry about your bills going unapproved. The next enhancement we want to talk about is the ability to pay bills from the vendor list. If you navigate to the Accounts Payable menu, All tab, and select Vendors, you'll notice a new option on the far right-hand corner here for Pay. So now you can come in and select this Pay link for a vendor, which will generate a pop-up with pay bills where you can go ahead and pay vendors from the vendor list. With that, there's also been a number of enhancements around list views with new enhanced lists. This is going to be a default going for companies going forward, and they'll be rolling this out in phases. So at some point, you'll likely notice that as you start to navigate to different list views, the new enhanced list view is going to be enabled by default. If it's not enabled currently and you want to check it out, navigate to a list view such as vendors and select the Turn on Enhanced List option in the top right-hand corner. This will go ahead and generate the new enhanced list view. This list view has a lot of the same functionalities that you have with the standard list, with being able to create new views, create new vendors, do imports, exports, set filters, and set your display hierarchies. Some of the new features within this are a split view. So you can come over here and select this split view option, where you have your vendor list on the left-hand side, and you could actually view, edit, and make changes to vendors in the split view on the right-hand side. You can disable the split view by going back to the list view option. Another cool feature of this is if you want to adjust the way that your columns are ordered on the fly, is you can just quickly drag and drop and rearrange your columns in a way that you want to see them. You could also very easily create new views from this option by going to the settings, the cogwheel over here, the settings on the right-hand side, select Configure Columns, and then you can select or deselect what you want to see within your list view. So say you wanted to create a quick view to view vendor 1099 information. You can go ahead and just come to this all column, search 1099, select the 1099 columns and hit apply, and it'll automatically create this new view for you within the vendor list. Once you're done with your vendor list, you can go ahead and just select revert changes, and you'll go back to the original listing. And I think that's going to take us on to our next polling question. Have any of you started actually using Enhanced List? And what's your experience with them? We'll give you about a minute to answer. Okay, nice. It looks like, we have a few people that are using them to some capacity. They're still getting used to them, and some people that just haven't used them all. But yeah, I would encourage you to, if you're interested in this, go ahead and check it out. Once you enable it, you can still disable it. So to disable it, just select this more action option in the top right hand corner and select turn off enhanced list view. And that'll bring you back to the standard list. The next feature we want to cover is around smarter email capabilities for AP automation. So Intacct is going to be moving your AP automation domains over to the new email domains for just smarter email capabilities like auto forwarding rules, the ability to include inline attachments, including text from the bodies of your email, and even iPhone image support if you're trying to send in different receipts or bills just from a picture of your phone. You can tell if you're on the new domain already if you go to, or by looking at the domain for your AP bill automation email addresses. If you're currently at sagemail.com, you're still on the older domain, but if you're already at the at ai.sage.com, you're on the newer domain. So just some added functionality around what you can do with AP bill automation once you get moved to this newer domain. If you want to opt into this new email service, feel free to log a ticket through the CC request hub, and we can kick off that process for you. The next feature we wanted to cover that is now generally available within Intacct is their new vendor payments powered by Mineral Tree. So for those of you familiar with CSI, this is a direct replacement to CSI, and it will just allow you to, seamlessly pay your vendors with different payment methods such as ACH, check, or virtual card, right from Sage Intacct. So you're not necessarily using needing to go to a third-party system to make that payment. It's directly integrated within the system. It uses the vendor payment preferences to go ahead and determine the payment method for that vendor. So when you're in pay bills, you would select the payment method as Mineral Tree, and then when you process that payment, it'll leverage the vendor payment preferences to go ahead and process that payment. For anybody that's interested in having this set up or enabled in their environments, feel free to log a CC request hub ticket, and we'll help you through that process. That's it for functionality that I'm going to be demoing. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to my colleague, Ashley. Take it from here.
Thanks, James. Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to.
you're fine.
I don't see the stop share option. Hold on. There it is.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So thanks, James. So let's jump in and take a look at what's new in accounts receivable, cash management, and the customer report writer. So first up, in accounts receivable, we now have customer refunds available to all Sage Intacct customers. This feature streamlines your refund process by making sure any refunds you issue outside of Sage Intacct are accurately recorded and that those refunded credits are automatically cleared. So that means there's no more creating of manual balancing adjustments. You simply would just match the credits to that refund or adjust the refunded amount for each credit and you're done. So before you enable customer refunds, there are two steps that you'll need to configure first. And so we'll go ahead and navigate to General Ledger, the Setup tab, and config and journals. And so first you'll want to create a new journal where refunds will be posted. And so I went ahead and created a new journal and I named it Refund Journal. So I have that here. After you've created your refund journal, next you'll create a document sequence for refund numbers. And so if we navigate to Company, the Setup tab, and Document Sequences, I went ahead and created a new document sequence for my customer refund here. Once those two preliminary steps are completed, then you'll want to navigate to your AR configuration to enable customer refunds. So let's go ahead and navigate to Accounts Receivable, the Setup tab, Configuration. And then if we scroll down to the Enable Functionality section, at the very bottom here, we'll have our new configuration for enabling of recording of customer refunds. So we'll go ahead and check that. Now, after you check this box, there will actually be a couple new fields in the AR configuration. So let's go ahead and scroll up to the journal section. You'll now see that it revealed through a couple of new fields. So let's go ahead and populate our customer refund journal that we created. And then there, you also optionally have the preference to set your summary frequency. So because I have all my other ones set to 1 per, I want that to match for my customer refund. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then if we navigate down to our document sequence section, you'll also see that you're able to set a document sequence for customer refunds. So I'll go ahead and do that as well. After you've completed those steps, you'll go ahead and click Save. Next, after you enable customer refunds, you'll also want to grant permissions to your users. So whoever needs access to create them or to manage them, you'll go ahead and navigate to Company, and then we'll go to the Admin tab. And then depending if you're role permission-based or user permission-based, you'll go ahead and navigate to those permissions. And since in this demo environment, we're roles-based, I'll go ahead and edit my AR manager role that I have and click Subscriptions. Then I'll navigate to Accounts Receivable Permissions. And then at the very bottom of this Activities and Lists here, I have my customer refunds. And so you'll notice you'll have different permissions for list, view, add, post, and void. And so depending on what you want your users to have access to be able to do, you can go ahead and set that here. Once you set the permissions for your users, then we'll go ahead and navigate to the new customer refunds page. So let's go ahead and go to accounts receivable. Might need to refresh my page. Hmm. Sorry about that. Live troubleshooting here. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Okay, perfect. So now we'll go ahead and navigate to our accounts receivable and refunds. We'll go ahead and click Create. And so once that's in place, you can record a refund right from the new customer refunds page. And since customer refunds reflect transactions that occurred outside of Sage Intacct, the payment method is always going to be record transfer. So let's go ahead and select my customer. I can set my refund date. I can also select my bank. And then because I am in a multi-base currency environment, I went ahead and selected my currencies here. And then you'll notice that you can go ahead and issue a refund for various credit types. So you have the ability to select advances, adjustments, and overpayments. And so for this example, I'm going to go ahead and select my adjustment here for 8,500. I do have the ability to change my refund amount. So maybe if I don't want to receive a refund in full for this adjustment that I created, I can go ahead and do a partial refund for it. But in this example, I'm going to go ahead and refund for the full amount. I also have the ability to draft a refund. So maybe if I'm waiting for a little bit, waiting a little while, I can go ahead and put this in a draft mode, or I can directly post it. And it's just as simple as that. And so from the refunds list, you can review drafts or posted refunds. You can drill in to the refund details. And I can even drill into the specific credits that were cleared. So if I wanted again to just look at that credit here, I could go ahead and click on that and review it and see that I was paid in full. So that's a look at the new customer refunds functionality designed to make those workflows faster, clearer, and easier to manage. Next, you can now apply payments directly from the customer's list, just like what James said earlier for vendors. We can go ahead and do that for customers. And so even though it is a small change, it does have a big impact on efficiency. So if you have payment permissions, you'll see an apply payment option for each customer. And so if I want to go ahead and click on one customer here and click apply payment, I'll get a pop-up where I can go ahead and select my invoices for payment and receive a payment without even having to leave or navigate to a different screen. Before we wrap up accounts receivable, there are also two very helpful enhancements designed to make your day-to-day work a little easier. First is streamlining credit application. And again, this is all about reducing clicks and saving time when applying credits. So if we navigate to accounts receivable and go to our advances, you'll now see an apply more option. This lets you apply an advance to multiple invoices at once, or you can apply part of it now and keep the rest for later. And then in AR adjustments, if we go to accounts receivable adjustments, you can select multiple adjustments for a customer and click apply credits. So now I can go ahead and select two adjustments at the same time, click apply credits, and again, it brings me to the receive a payment pop-up screen where I can go ahead and select my invoices and receive payment without even navigating away from the AR adjustments list. And so this update means you just spend less time jumping between screens and more time processing payments efficiently. And speaking of saving time, Sage Intacct has also made it easier to get the data you need from your AR ledger with more flexible filtering options. So if we navigate to accounts receivable AR ledger, you'll notice under the filter section, under customer selection, I now have the ability to filter by multiple customers, either individually, where I can go ahead and add a customer. And I can also do ranges. Click save. I also have the ability, if I wanted to do a range here, I can also include child customers, which that wasn't available before. And I can also do customer groups. And so I have a bunch of customer groups here. So if I wanted to do it by customer type of healthcare, I can go ahead and do that and run my AR ledger. So together, all of these enhancements add up to a smoother, more efficient AR experience, and we're really excited for you to start using them. So now let's shift over to cash management. Over time, banks have made additional bank data available from the banking cloud. So now you can see even more fields from incoming bank fee transactions to tailor your matching and creation rules or even your assignment rules. So now you can use the wider range of fields to increase matching accuracy during reconciliations and when automatically assigning customers to bank transactions. So if we go ahead and navigate to one of my matching rules, and if I were to click edit here, the new fields are now available for you to select when the selected data source under filter transaction by is bank transactions. And then if I go to field here, you'll notice some more fields. And so some of those fields, to name a few, are payee, category, short description, extended description, and bank reference number. And so these new fields just give you more control and precision when reconciling and helping you match transactions faster and with greater accuracy. And finally, let's take a look at what's new in the customer report writer. So there are two new objects you can now build reports on in the customer report writer, either under platform services or customization services. So the first one that we'll be going through is the new object for accounts payable payment approval history. So I went ahead and created a report here already. I'm just going to run this so that you can see an example of what that output would look like. I can set up my various filters here. For approval dates, I can do approval states. But if I were to click view, this is an example of what a custom report that I went ahead and created and where it shows that approval history that you might be looking for. And then second, another object is accounts receivable customer refunds. And so you can report on that new refund functionality that we just covered. So if I go ahead and run this report that I created and select one of my locations and click view, I can see my customer refunds that I created, and I can even drill down into a record number and take a look at that customer refund. And so that wraps up my portion of the demo. So I'll hand it over to Becca, who will walk us through updates in purchasing and fixed assets.
Thanks, Ashley. And pull up my screen here. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Becca, and today I will be going through the enhancements related to the fixed asset management and purchasing modules. First, we'll start with the Sage fixed asset management enhancements this quarter. So, for those of you who are unaware, Sage Fixed Asset Management is Sage's new solution for fixed assets, not to be confused with the SIG Fixed Assets tool or Asset Edge. This is a new product that was released last year. So today, taking a look at those enhancements, the first one I wanted to go over is the ability to provide your own accumulated depreciation for historical assets instead of letting Sage Intacct calculate for you. So this is helpful if you need to add assets to Intacct that are currently being tracked in another system and have already started to depreciate. This helps to ensure consistency in your records between your legacy system and Sage Intacct by allowing you to record the exact accumulated depreciation to date instead of relying on the system to calculate it for you. To use this new feature, navigate to the Fixed Asset Management module and then go to the configuration settings. And now at the bottom here, you'll see a new setting called Historical Accumulated Depreciation, which will allow you to choose whether you want Intacct to calculate historical depreciation automatically or enter it manually. So you do need to choose one or the other. You cannot have some assets where it is calculated automatically and others where it is entered manually. But hopefully, at least a few of you all find this helpful, especially those who are looking to move on to the fixed asset management tool in the future. Another great feature Sage released this quarter is the ability to update assets in bulk using the new import service. To use this functionality, navigate to your import data page from within your company setup checklist, and then click on the new import service option. This new update feature will allow you to place assets into service, transfer, dispose, place assets back into review, back into service, and also update any asset details via CSV. So within the new import service, you will now see the update button, which will allow you to make all of those updates in bulk instead of having to make them manually one by one for each of your assets like you had to do prior to this release. The next update we'll go over is Sage has added the ability to revert posted depreciation in bulk. For example, you may have accidentally posted a month's depreciation before you intended to and now need to revert that depreciation. Prior to the release, this had to be done individually by drilling into each asset and those depreciation postings. But now you have the option to simply navigate to the post depreciation page from within the fixed asset management module, which will pull up all of your depreciation entries. From here, you can use any of the filters at the top to filter maybe by a specific date if you want to specifically revert all entries for July, for example, and then use the mass checkbox functionality to select all entries you're looking to revert, and then simply use the new revert posting button that's now available at the top of the page here. Lastly, this quarter for the fixed asset management module, Sage has added a new column to depreciation schedules, which give users the ability to view cumulative depreciation. So to view this, simply navigate into the depreciation schedules for an individual asset. And then once this loads, you'll now see this new column here, cumulative depreciation amount, which shows you the ongoing sum of the depreciation for each period. This column is also available to use in custom reports if you would like to pull that into any of your fixed asset custom reporting. The next application that we'll take a look at today is purchasing. So one of the most exciting features that was released this quarter is the ability to combine multiple purchasing documents into a single transaction. So this allows you during conversion to combine, for example, multiple purchasing documents or specific line items into a single transaction. For example, maybe a vendor sends you a single vendor invoice for multiple purchase orders. Now you have the option to create just one vendor invoice for those two purchase orders, whereas prior to this release, you would be required to create an individual invoice for each PO. If you're interested in using this functionality, do note that you need to turn on a specific setting within your purchasing configurations to allow this system to enable conversions for multiple source documents. To see how this works, for example, let's say you're creating a new vendor invoice for two POs that you have today. You would simply come in. So instead of going to your purchase order list and clicking convert like you may have done in the past, you would create a new vendor invoice. Simply enter the vendor name. And then from here, you'll see this new link convert from an existing transaction. Selecting that shows you any open purchase orders related to that vendor you selected. So from here, I can say I want to pull in the details for PO 156. That populates those details down below. And then I also want to pull in the details for PO 145. Now that line has been added down here below, and simply post the vendor invoice record to create it and then close out those two POs. So hopefully this is something that a lot of companies will find helpful for those scenarios where you do have only one vendor invoice for multiple POs. Another very useful update this period has to do with the AP automation for purchasing functionality, where you can now automate the creation of purchasing vendor invoices without needing to match them to a PO. So this means you now have the benefit of using the automation functionality for invoices that both match and do not match to a PO. Whereas before, you could only use the automation functionality for vendor invoices that did have a matching PO. As always, the system will allow you to change the transaction type for incorrect predictions, which will feed back into the machine learning model to continue to improve future predictions. So if you're not already using AP automation for purchasing and think you may be interested, please reach out to your client service manager and we'd be happy to get you more information on that process. Next, you may recall in R3 2023, Sage introduced match tolerance functionality, which allows companies to compare PO details like quantity and price to identify discrepancies and ensure transactions fall within acceptable limits. With this release, Sage rolled out some functionality that allows for clearer visibility into match tolerance exceptions. Now you can view a more complete history of tolerance exceptions directly from the transaction to allow you to make an informed decision on whether it should be overridden or adjusted. So here is an example of a vendor invoice that was created in an exception state here. We can now view that vendor invoice. And at the bottom, you'll see this View Exceptions button, which will give you a pop-up giving you the exact details of why this was flagged as an exception. So in this example, you can very clearly see there was a price variance of 300%. And now at this point, the user is able to clearly decide whether they want to adjust the transaction or go ahead and submit it for posting. Lastly, related to the purchasing functionality in Intacct, I do want to call out that Sage released a new product called Sage Intacct e-procurement. This adds vendor punch-out functionality just today in the US, but it streamlines the entire procurement process and helps to save users time and reduce errors. So if you're interested in this, let us know. It will allow purchasers to access catalogs via the vendor's website directly from within Sage Intacct, place orders on vendor sites, and have purchase orders automatically generated. It's available through an additional subscription. So again, if you're interested, please reach out to your client service manager for more information. Next, Ginger is going to go over some highlights related to contract, inventory, projects, and a couple other modules.
Thank you, Becca. So with the contracts module, you are now able to reassign dimensions. Now, this is only for contracts that are in progress and with posted transactions. So previously, if you had a contract and you had a transaction that had been billed against it, the dimensions were locked down. You would not be able to edit them. So previously you would have to do a journal entry to reclassify if needed. So as an example, we have customer, department, class. You also have the ability to do employee and department and vendor. Project and task is also an option to reassign. However, they cannot have any recognized like revenue recognition transactions against it. So really looking at class, department, employee, vendor, unless you don't have revenue recognition. So to do that, you would come into your contract. You have the ability to do at the header level for all lines, or you can also do just an individual line. And I am actually going to choose a different contract. So under more actions, there is a new option, redesign dimensions. You can give it a date of the reassignment and then what your dimension is. So we'll just add a couple. And then you want to choose. So if there were multiple lines on here, you would be able to choose all lines and then save. And then now the department in class has been updated. One thing to note, if there is an issue and you needed to do it again, I used the date of August 1st. So if I was to try again and use August 1st, make a change. Maybe we want to move this to IT. I'll get the error. So the previous reassignment date. So even though you're using the exact same date, it has to be after. So if you were to do this multiple times, you have to make sure that it's the next date after the previous one. There are permissions that would need to be added to a user, and it is actually for contract list, view, edit, and then reassign dimensions is a new permission that's added. And one thing to note is that it really is only for in-progress contracts, right, with transactions that have transactions posted. So if it's an evergreen contract, if it's a kit or kit component, if it's contract lines that are part of an MEA allocation, or if it's a state of canceled, renewed, not renewed, they do not have this new option. And the user-defined dimensions are not part of this in this particular release. So it's only your out-of-the-box dimensions. And then moving on to, so Intacct has this next new functionality on the contracts piece, but you can use it for other areas. So in accounts receivable, if you go to posted payments, you are now able to edit a reversal date of a transaction that has been reversed. So previously, you would have to contact Intacct. If you accidentally put in the wrong date, maybe you reversed something and it used today's date, but you actually wanted to use the date of the original transaction, it would be locked and you would not be able to do that. But now you have the option to go into posted payments. I'm going to choose this one with an August 1st date. You click on reversal. Previously, it was grayed out. You wouldn't be able to do that. You choose the date. So I'm going to go back. If you wanted to add in a memo, you could. And submit. And then now it has moved to, oh, it was the 13th, but I used the 14th. But you can see now it's moved from August 1st and moved over here to the reversal date of 8/14 or 5/14. One thing to know that the reversal dates cannot. This is a new configuration. So under accounts receivable, setup, configuration, we scroll down a bit, there is enable edit of reversal dates. So this would have to be checked, and then permissions would basically be to be able to edit the reversal. And if you have an associated invoice that was created from a contract, invoice or Intacct reclasses the contract and updates its transaction history to reflect the new reversal date. So as you can see, it is part of the contracts module, new functionality, but you can use it on your posted payments and accounts receivable. My example was not a contract invoice, so you can use that. Moving on to projects, you're now able to add all of your standard tasks to a project. So previously you would have to do API update or add manually. So now if you have standard tasks that every time you create a project, maybe you want the standard tasks to show up and you just want to be able to add in bulk. So now you have that functionality. One thing to note that it's not in the Intacct help or the release notes is that you do need to have the enhanced list turned on. If I turn this off, you can see there is no checkbox. So you do need to have the enhanced list turned on. To be able to have this checkbox, then it's going to ask me what project I want to add these to. And you save. And now they have added to that project, and you don't have to do it one by one or via an update. So if we look at the tasks, it just added on all the additional standard tasks. There is no, you would just need normal project or task permissions, and there is no configuration. It's there. The only configuration would be to make sure that the enhanced list is turned on. Inventory, the main thing to review is that currently there are two transaction definitions. So for transfers, so you have a warehouse transfer in and out, and then you have a system warehouse transfer in and out. One thing is that the transfers, it's two separate transactions, whereas the warehouse transfer is just one. It has behind the scenes, the in and out, and you're able to go, it's just more efficient. I wanted to highlight it because the in and out transaction definitions will not be supported as of 2026. So if you do have inventory and you are using the two separate transactions, it's recommended to start using the warehouse transfer and just get used to using that. It is also more efficient because it is only one transaction versus two separate, right? You have your warehouse from and to, you can add in your dimensions and then post, and it's just the one transaction. Any new environments created after R2 of 2025 no longer even has the in and out transaction definitions. So this is just really if you're using inventory and you've had it for a while. One thing to note on the projects, reversals. I would recommend, we're running out of time. I would recommend if you have projects that you're using revenue recognition, and I'll go into, it is based out of order entry, but it's off of a project. And the templates are budget cost from summary or budget cost from GL. I recommend looking into the revenue recognition options. You now have, when you go into at the entity level, your manage revenue schedules, you now have an option to preview and then update % complete schedules. So this is going to update anything on your projects, your % complete, and add on for your as of date. And it previously, you would have to, you only saw it when you budgeted costs was calculated when you either opened the revenue recognition schedule for the transaction or executed a post function on the schedule. But now you'll be able to update % completes, review before you post anything. So just as an example, I don't have any in this, but if you did a preview, you can do update % complete. Anything that was completed that had that template would show, you would be able to review what was recognized, deferred, anything, and then post. So previously you were not able to see before it was posted. We are almost at the time, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to James for a wrap up.
Great. Thanks, Ginger, and big thanks to all of our Sage Intacct service line colleagues, Ashley, Ginger, and Becca for demoing out these features. Go ahead and share my screen. All right. Thank you, everyone, for walking through the R3 features with us. We hope this demo helped you feel more confident about what's coming and how you can take advantage of the new functionality. Now that we're nearing the end of our session, let's cover some final wrap-up items before jumping into questions from the chat. We wanted to highlight a couple of exciting new early adopter programs that Sage Intacct is offering. Just a quick reminder with early adopter programs is that these features are not completely built out and possible issues are expected as you assist in testing and providing feedback. And the first one we want to highlight is line level matching and purchasing, which will use AI and machine learning to match or populate line items directly from vendor documents. This can help reduce manual correction and improve transaction accuracy. This one is definitely in the early stages of early adopter, but feel free to reach out if you're interested in it. And next is equity method, automation with consolidations when using advanced ownership consolidations. This will help to automate the recording of a subsidiary's net income to the parent entities based on ownership percentage. If you're interested in either of these early adopter programs, please feel free to submit a ticket through the CC Request Hub, and we can assist on next steps. Some key takeaways from today's session: you learned about the new R3 features in core and advanced modules, gained an understanding on how these release features can impact your workflows, and were reminded that you can always reach out to the cross-country team for any support with release management. And with that, for any release-related questions, please feel free to contact your PPS account manager by submitting a ticket through the CC Request Hub.